looking kind of to the side to view what's going on. I saw that tilt and I thought, I've seen that with patients so many times, and not recognized it as an opportunity to say, how's your vision?
For now, Embodied Labs only sells to services for the aging because Shah says it's important that VR is paired with a guided discussion and reflection.
I am your brain.
To process what the users experienced so they know how to put into action what they've learned. Elizabeth Lee, VOA News, Los Angeles.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to VOA's special panel discussion on the Mandela Washington Fellowship, a 6-week U.S. flagship program that brings over 700 handpicked young African leaders to the United States of America for mentorship. I'm your host, Maida de la Salette.
And I'm your co-host, Mike Horvath. Tonight, on our special broadcast, we're going to be joined by alumni members of the Young African Leaders Initiative, young YALI people from across the continent. The focus of the discussion is the impact of YALI on Africa. But before we introduce our panelists for tonight, let us give you a little background information on YALI through a report that both Myra and I produced.
Successful applicants of the 2022 Mandela Washington Fellowship Program are happy to have traveled to the U.S. for their leadership training. The 2021 fellows had to participate virtually from their home countries due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and some chose not to do it. But 2021 Zambian fellow Kayula Chisanga, an award-winning broadcaster, said while she was heartbroken not to come to the U.S., she still gained from the mentorship she received.
It was very eye-opening, and it was also really good because even for people that were still doing their work, going for work and learning, they had to learn how things work differently, or the different stuff that you could apply to your work, and then start doing that as they were working.
Liberian women's rights defender Janet Ricks, also a 2021 virtual alumni like Chisanga, agrees. She credits the program for helping her improve on the COVID-19 programs hosted by her organization, Potential Leaders for Sustainable Future, which earned her recognition by her country's former president, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf.
Because of the work I did during the coronavirus period, I was recognized by former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, President of Women, as a COVID-19 hero.
Godfrey Kurawone, a 2017 YALI alumni and politician from Zimbabwe, applauds the 6-week fellowship. He said it gives some of Africa's most brilliant young minds an opportunity to network with global trendsetters and policymakers.
It allows you to network with other leaders from different continents.
For Mozambican entrepreneur Jocelina Garigande Kembo, a 2015 graduate, the program helped her business and other small to medium enterprises across Africa get funding.
I managed to access so many grants from the U.S. government, from UNESCO and other private sector and international organizations, including banks.
YALI is the brainchild of former U.S. President Barack Obama, who announced the creation of the fellowship in 2013 during a trip to South Africa. Experts, fellows, and alumni continue to speak positivity about how the YALI program is impacting Africa. Many say it has led to the empowerment of thousands of African youth and small to medium enterprises through grants and networks. Mike Horvath, VOA, Washington.
Those were alumni of the Mandela Washington Fellowship, or some know it as Young African Leaders Initiative, YALI, speaking on how the U.S.-sponsored program is helping young African leaders across the continent.
That's right, Myra. Well, audience, if you're joining us right now, welcome again to VOA's special Mandela Washington Fellowship panel discussion. Now, to introduce our panelists, we're joined via Skype by alumni from different parts of the continent. I'd like to introduce our first guest, Terence Mate, a 2021 Mandela Washington Fellow and entrepreneur. Hailing from Zimbabwe, Terence is the co-founder of Southern Incineration Services, and in 2019 was on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list in the business category. Terence, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me today, Mike.
Awesome, bud. Awesome. We're excited to have you. We're also joined by Frederico Silva, a Mozambican entrepreneur. Frederico graduated in 2015 and is the co-founder of Upload. Frederico, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for inviting me.
We appreciate your participation. And thirdly, we're joined by Gloria Anderson, the founder of Tanzania Enlightenment Development Innovation, or TEDI for short. Gloria graduated from YALI last year. Gloria, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mike.
And those are our panelists for tonight. We're hoping to be joined later on by Amina Abubakar from Nigeria. But for now, we're going to be working with these three. Myra, let's start off there with Frederico, the 2015 YALI alumni, graduated in 2015, the co-founder of Upload. Frederico, you being the oldest on the panel here, you graduated in 2015. I'm really curious in terms of how YALI has helped you, or your business, and most importantly, how through your eyes, how YALI has helped the continent. So let's start off there. Talk us a little more about your experience post-YALI and how the fellowship has helped you.
Mike, you had to put it out there and say I'm the oldest. YALI has helped me in several ways. I think the program itself was the most relevant thing to me, at least, was the networking with peers from all across the continent, whom I maintain, a tight relationship with. And why that's relevant, friendship aside, of course, is that if you are building a business like myself, at the time I had a different venture, and we wanted to become a Pan-African startup. And so having ears on the ground, in many countries helps you understand the markets better. And of course, if you're trying to foster any type of partnerships, to be able to scale, it becomes extremely relevant to have these kind of connections. So to me, that was definitely the most relevant thing. The program itself, it was good. I mean, it depends on what your background is. For me, I was in the business and entrepreneurship track. I found it useful, but I cannot say it was transformational. The content itself, and for different people, it's a different experience. So if I didn't have a marketing and business background, I think it would have been a lot more relevant, the content itself. So that was not what I took from it. We've also been able to network within Austin. So I went to UT Austin, and we had extremely relevant visits, such as Indeed. So at the time I had an online recruitment platform, and in making connections at Indeed was of course very, very relevant to me. So as I said, it depends, from person to person what you're going to get out of it. We also visited Techstars. I made very strong connections there as well, and these were definitely pivotal in the progress of my startup at the time. I ended up selling my startup in May 2020, and now I've co-founded Upload. So it's a completely different stage in my journey.
Okay.
I guess those were definitely the most relevant things for me.
Awesome. Let me hold you there. Myra, you're hearing there, Frederico there is preaching collaboration. That seems to be the spirit there. Let's hear what other YALI fellows have to say.
That's right, Mike and Fred. From the experience, I followed Fred since 2015, so it's really nice to see how he has been on this path and working on all of these projects and with collaborations with other people. Gloria, you just graduated in 2021, so I wonder what has changed already in your life.
Wow, thank you. Right, so Mandela Washington Fellowship has done a lot of career transformations to me as a person because I work in the education sector in a non-governmental organization that I founded. And as a person, I was not having a public management academic background. I took a bachelor degree in marketing as well as master's in marketing management, and I wasn't having any academic background in public management. But when I applied for Mandela Washington Fellowship, they placed me on the public management track at Syracuse. It was very unfortunate, I would say, that our cohort was done virtually because of COVID-19, but despite it being a virtual program, I had a lot of experience in learning on how to become a public servant, but also a bit of a civic servant, because you know when you're working for a non-governmental organization, you're serving the community, and so it has the element of civic as well as the element of public as well. So the networking, the lessons, the funding after the program has really transformed me as a person and as a young leader, because I remember during the program, we were given a mentor, and you're supposed to write a project, and then the mentor coaches you on how you can implement your project in your country. I already had the NGO by then, but it wasn't so strategic. I was not having a clear focus of what I really wanted to do. But then through this coach, he gave me a direction on what I should really do, on how I should become more innovative, and how I can basically stick into a specific goal and be of impactful in my community. And that's when I came back. No, not coming back because we did not travel. When I graduated, I had to start a one computer lab, one school project, which aims at establishing computer labs to low resource public schools in Tanzania,
Gloria,
as well as providing capacity building.
Gloria, we're going to talk more about this, I'm sure, a little bit ahead. We are now going to Terence, right, Mike, that might have some great experience to share too.
Right. So let's bring in Terence Bucket so that he gets an opportunity to tell us more about his experience. Terence, just like Gloria, you graduated last year, but correct. Your career seems to have really, when we're talking about accomplishments, you also have the Forbes 30 under 30. So I'm really curious to hear more about how these fellowships or these programs and these achievements has helped your career, especially as an entrepreneur who's based in Zimbabwe.
Okay. One of the most important things that I gained from the fellowship is perspective. So you see, when you're coming from your own country, you look at things from one way. But when you now have access to people from 54 other countries who might be experiencing the same problems, but they're solving them in different ways, or they're solving them in different circumstances because legislation in countries is different, culture, etc. You then have the opportunity to look at the same problem that you're trying to solve, but you get to look at it through different lens. I can say for me that was the biggest takeaway. And that access to networks that Fred talked about has been tremendously helpful. Because with the access to networks, you gain more. And you gain more in terms of spreading the business outside of our borders. So since I've been part of the fellowship, we've been able to expand from Zimbabwe into Zambia and South Africa. And all those connections and networks came directly from being part of the network that we have.
I'm listening to these experiences, and I'm thinking, why didn't I go to YALI? Why? Anyways, I know you're still on time, Mike, to apply, but I'm not too old for that. Unfortunately, they have a cap. Let's pause for a moment here. We're going to hear what other YALI alumni think about the mentorship program, and more importantly, what kind of changes they would like to see in Africa. VOA reached out to 2015 alumni from Nigeria, South Sudan, South Africa, and Kenya, who talked about the YALI program and what kind of changes they would like to see on the continent. Let's watch.
My dream for Nigeria is a country that has the right infrastructures.
Well, one bite at a time. My job, as I talk now, is to ensure that girls go to school.
My dream is for everybody to have the tools to improve their lives, to make the most of their lives, and to actually live a life that they themselves value.
I believe in an Africa that believes in our own solutions, believes in our own projects, believes in our own products, because as I told you, I have IT products, but we still bring in a lot of foreign products, whether it's manufacturing, whatever industry, but we don't have trust in our own projects. So I believe in an Africa where we promote our own and we grow our own.
Those were 2015 Young African Leaders alumni speaking on the impact of the program. And of course, most importantly, what kind of Africa they'd like to see. So to go back to our panelists, I heard some of these 2015 YALI alumni talking about infrastructure, a very, very important thing. So I want to start off by bringing back Federico. You're a tech entrepreneur. You seem to have done really well. Here, these YALI alumni are talking about expansion. They're talking about infrastructure in Africa. As a tech entrepreneur, how have you been able to navigate these waters? And has YALI equipped you with the tools to help with that?
So as Terence mentioned, I think that's where perspective comes to play. So we have our challenges, and even within that same experience in the States, when you are to expose the problems that you're trying to solve, it's a completely different reality, right? It's exactly because, the infrastructure that they have is far more advanced. People are tech savvy, and, everything seems as a no-brainer. When we are in our environment, there are definitely a lot more challenging environments, not only for the lack of infrastructure, but also because people are not so tech proficient. So one of the things that was interesting to share among our peers was that we all kind of face the same problems, and and we don't all have the same solution. So problems can be addressed in different ways, and that's definitely something that there was a takeaway from YALI. Another thing that I felt was great is that when you are branded, a Mandela Washington Fellow, your credibility also comes to play. We've had access to grants. We've had a lot of exposure through Voice of America as well. And it just makes things easier when you are on this side, that, people look at you and they feel that, okay, you were selected for this program. You immediately become more trustworthy in the business environment.
Yeah, actually, that's a very interesting thing that Fred just said, being more trustworthy in the business environment. And I will speak on that and ask Gloria. She mentioned before she created a lab. How was it? How was the process to implement, and how did you actually got people to, or did you get people to embrace your project?
Thank you, Myra. So basically, after the program, we were exposed into so many opportunities, including funding as well. So I had an opportunity to apply for, it's called, it's a funding project whereby you do partner with a U.S. citizen. It's called Reciprocal Exchange Program. You do partner with a U.S. citizen, and together you implement a project in your local country as an alumna. So I partnered, I networked, and I created a friendship with a lady from the U.S. who was working in the space of training young people on leadership skills. And she was very interested with my educational project. So we were successful to get the funding from the U.S. Department of State, and then we established a computer lab in a Maasai community public school in Tanzania. It was very interesting because through Mandela Washington Fellowship, I would say we have gotten like a well-organized funding since the inception of our NGO, and it was very interesting again when we went to the government leaders in the district where we implemented the project and told them that through the Mandela Washington Fellowship we want to implement this project, and they were able to mobilize more resources from the community, and we added into more funds. Actually, over 50% of what we got from the U.S. Department of State. And so the project became bigger than what it was before. So I can relate with what Fred had shared, that being on this side, it gives you more credibility, and also it gives you more, the state of being trusted with different stakeholders and practitioners in the sector.
Right. To follow up on that, Gloria, what we're also really curious about, and I like the fact that you really work in the education sector. You talked about how the branding and, of course, the YALI has assisted you. But within the education sector itself, how do you think that what you were able to learn is able to help young Africans across the board? 2020, for example, was a really, really drastic year, and 2021 for the education sector, considering the impact of COVID. If we use that as an example, how was what you learned on YALI, how did that help people in the education sector?
Thank you, Mike. I would say COVID-19 has transformed the education sector digitally, and it has given us a picture that we never saw it coming in the education space. And also, COVID-19 has taught us that we should get more ways of learning than the normal ways that we were used to. You can imagine, since the inception of Mandela Washington Fellowship in 2014, there is no cohort that was done virtually, but our cohort was done virtually. Over 500 young leaders from Africa gathered just through tech devices, and we learned on 6 weeks. And the impact of the fellowship is similar as the way the ones who went to the U.S. Of course, we are going to go to the U.S. Next month for the alumni enrichment program to cover the in-person part of it. But technology is coming technology is a way to transform the education space. And this is the reason why I came up with a project, the Computer Lab project for low-resource public schools in Tanzania, because we remember that during COVID-19, schools were closed. And there are other countries that schools were closed for over 2 years, for over 1 year. And therefore, that means if we had a lot, we have done it, if we could have done a lot of digital investment in the education space before COVID-19, then the impact of COVID-19 in the education sector wouldn't have been bigger as the way it has appeared, the way we were not having any investment and we were not ready. So during yes, Mike.
I have to hold you there. I'm going to have to hold you there because time is running out real quickly. So we need to give Terence an opportunity also to chip in on that discussion when we're talking about infrastructure. But thank you so much. Terence, let's bring you in shortly, in less than a minute. You're operating in Africa where infrastructure is a really big problem. You're an entrepreneur within your own right. How are you navigating the waters, and how has YALI helped there?
Okay. With regards to infrastructure, once again, it all goes back to what I said initially about perspective, the way you look at things. And from networking with other YALI members across Africa, one thing I learned is that the lack of infrastructure when you're building a business can actually be a competitive advantage in terms of your product offering. Because if you can provide the relevant infrastructure, then that means that you have an enhanced product offering, because other people are failing to access the market because they don't have that infrastructure. So for us now, as we build our business, because in the business of waste management, the biggest problem really is equipment, and in Africa, bad roads. So in terms of, so as we go out and try to raise capital, for us, we say that we want to own our own equipment, we own our own trucks, our own garbage collection trucks, our own incinerators. And because we own everything in our value chain, which is we've built the infrastructure that we don't have access to, we now have a product that only we can offer. And then for us, that is the competitive advantage that we have in the waste management business. So that's how we deal with the challenges of infrastructure. We build it and we own it ourselves, and we offer it as a full package.
Hey, Myra, I hear we have Amina briefly, so let's give her an opportunity to speak for like a minute before we wrap up our segment here. Amina, are you on the line?
Yes, Mike, how are you?
Great, we're great. We were liking our Nigeria segment here.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Well, briefly, in less than a minute, I guess we want to skip past the whole tell us about your company and delve into it. One of the biggest discussions that you came at the right time for is infrastructure, which is a big problem, especially in places like Nigeria. You work in education. Tell us more about those challenges and how YALI helped you address those.
Because I think I am fortunate to be in the IT industry, so I kind of got exposed to some of those gadgets way before my colleagues. But every single day you want to work with people, especially in the government sectors, you are going to see a lot of challenges. So what YALI did for me, because the 2021 was very virtual, the whole thing was virtual, I could see our facilitators very big on Zoom, and we did literally everything on Zoom, and it was very impactful. So one of the things I told them to do is, please, they should teach me how to use that. And we always break up in rooms. We get breakout rooms that you get to network. It's just maybe a few of you, and you get more free to talk to people. So I think for me, that was a really big eye-opener, what tech can do. You don't have to talk to a lot of people all the time. Those breakout rooms were a big helper. I could see a lot of potential that this is going to bring in learning. And one of the biggest takeaways for me was a virtual excursion. We were taken on a virtual excursion to Grandfather Mountain in Boone, North Carolina, and that was a really big eye-opener. And what I did with that was, when I came back to Nigeria, I started talking to a few people to see how we could start organizing virtual excursions for high school students so that they're encouraged not to drop out of high school, and they're excited to go to college. Yes.
Amina, we are so glad to have you here, even if it's just for a few minutes. What would you say to people, young people that are trying to make a difference in the continent and have no idea that YALI exists, or programs like YALI can actually give them a platform to go forward?
Yes, so it's very hard convincing people, especially in the North. The women say that the program is going to expose them to a lot of people, and they don't want that to happen. It's a cultural thing, because a lot of their cultures are very conservative. My culture is actually very conservative, but YALI exposed me, and now I get comfortable sharing my story on social media, and I'm able to reach more people because more people want to reach out to help my cause. So my advice for young people is, don't be shy. Come out there and share your stories. There are a lot of people on social media that are not doing good things, and your work is a lot of good. It's going to bring a lot of good if you get to share that, and YALI is going to give you a platform to even reach more people and share your story so that you make more impact. So please come and apply to the YALI program and make sure you get the best networks so that you do even better what you're doing right now.
I mean, I wish we could keep going because you are so energetic and there's so many things that I'm sure you could share to convince everyone in the continent. I'm convinced, even though, again, I can't apply. Thank you so much for
Why can't you apply, though?
Show. I'm old.
Maybe we could consider an exception. We want
Thank you
there.
so much. You are too kind, Amina. Thank you again. Gloria Anderson, thank you also. Asante Sana for you. Terence and Frederico, we ask you that you stick around for our extra time segment. For our Portuguese and Ndebele speakers, don't go anywhere because we have extra time coming up where we speak to alumni from Mozambique and Zimbabwe about their experiences in Ndebele and Portuguese. But first, let's watch a video of 2015 Mozambican YALI alumni Juscelina Girengana Kembo, who begins our extra time segment by talking about her YALI experience.
Mas depois de voltar a Moçambique, eu consegui mobilizar vários fundos do governo americano, da Unesco e de outras organizações internacionais, incluindo também empresas privadas baseadas em Moçambique, desenvolver um programa para jovens, um programa de desenvolvimento pessoal e profissional para ajudar a mais jovens moçambicanos e não só a acederem a oportunidades como Mandela Washington, o YALI, bolsas de estudos, a começarem seus próprios negócios e as suas próprias organizações.
Era Juscelina Girengana Kembo, a partir de Maputo, e nós vamos agora continuar a nossa conversa em português com o Frederico neste nosso tempo extra. Fred, muito obrigada mais uma vez por toda esta tua paciência para estar aqui connosco. E Fred, eu vou começar exatamente com esta questão do financiamento. O financiamento é importante. Como é que foi para ti, para os teus projetos, as tuas startups?
Eu tenho duas perspectivas em relação a financiamento. Uma perspectiva é o financiamento que vem de fundos perdidos, por norma com origem dos doadores, não é? E este é um financiamento que é extremamente relevante e talvez tenha sido onde houve maior abertura para olhar para as startups e, de facto, para apoiá-las. Mas não vem sem os seus entraves. Para já há uma necessidade de reportar que para a estrutura normal de uma startup é complicado. Depois, uma startup tem uma natureza muito dinâmica e por norma, quando acedemos a este tipo de financiamento, existe um budget que tem que ser respeitado até ao fim do programa, não é? Até ao fim do financiamento. E a natureza das startups é dinâmica. O que hoje pode ser um custo previsto, amanhã nós podemos ter solucionado com uma parceria. E depois é difícil conseguir mudar esta perspectiva com o doador. Depois obriga a uma série de exercícios. Muitas vezes obriga a ter contas auditadas, etc., que são mais uma vez questões que um negócio da natureza de uma startup também não está alinhado. No entanto, não deixa de ser importante fazê-lo e obriga-nos a crescer talvez mais rápido do que imaginávamos. Portanto, este foi um tipo de financiamento que, de facto, tal como a Juscelina disse, se tornou possível, principalmente depois do YALI, inclusivamente um dos grants que eu tive acesso na altura, que a minha empresa teve acesso, foi mesmo proveniente do YALI, da USAIDF. Portanto, o outro tipo de financiamento é um financiamento, um investimento, portanto, vamos dizer, de privados, não é? Seja de capitais de risco ou de investidores, de business angels. E posso dizer que nesse aspecto Moçambique ainda se está a posicionar, e falo de startups, portanto falo mais de empresas que estão a trabalhar com tecnologia. Moçambique ainda não tem muitas referências de investimentos passados, ok? O que torna o ambiente também mais arriscado para o investidor, e depois é uma situação, é um catch-22, não é? O que é que vem primeiro? Se é o sucesso das startups para que se ganhe a confiança dos investidores e a partir daí começa a desbloquear então este potencial, ou se é o investimento que deve surgir primeiro para que as startups consigam se ingrar e a partir daí criar-se essa confiança. Portanto, esta foi a perspectiva que eu tenho, e nesta fase da minha carreira ou da minha jornada empreendedora estou a lidar com a segunda vertente, portanto, e está a ser uma aprendizagem para mim, obviamente.
O desafio é muito grande, Fred?
Eu acho que o desafio é enorme. Nós somos parte da África lusófona, nós não temos um histórico, como eu dizia há pouco, de investidores. Não há uma cultura local de investir em startups, para começar. Quando abordamos investidores estrangeiros, a primeira questão é sempre, ok, qual foi o investimento que vocês já tiveram a nível local? Portanto, isso gera confiança. E podemos dizer que Moçambique não é um país, embora todo o seu potencial, não é um país que esteja no radar do mundo anglófono. Atenção, volto a dizer, para este contexto, obviamente, se estivermos a falar de recursos naturais, se estivermos a falar de setor agrícola, por exemplo, portanto, aí sim o país já tem alguma notoriedade.
Olha,
falando especificamente
ainda bem
do oil and
que
gas.
sobre isso. Exato, desculpa cortar-te, mas de que forma é que tu pensas que Moçambique, o país, o Estado, né, o governo poderia tirar melhor proveito destes talentos que participam em programas como a YALI, que vão em busca dos financiamentos, porque vocês fazem tudo, na realidade. Portanto, de que forma é que o país poderia tirar melhor proveito disto para que investidores privados, os tais angels, possam olhar para Moçambique como um mercado ideal para investir em startups como a Upload e outras que existem no país?
Eu acho que por parte do governo, o governo tem a capacidade de dar escala a qualquer iniciativa, não é? Portanto, o que eu sinto é que países como Moçambique, não falo apenas de Moçambique, tem uma série de problemas que as parcerias público-privadas poderiam ser solução. E eu acho que esta aposta na tecnologia já está mais do que provada que tem um impacto transversal, portanto, a todos os setores.
Fred, muito obrigada. Desculpa cortar-te. O nosso tempo é mesmo muito curto. Eu estiquei-me aqui um bocado e peço desculpa por te cortar por isso. Thank you so much, Federico. It was our extra time. We really appreciate you taking time to be part of our panel discussion. And to our VOA Portuguese audience, thank you so much for joining us. Obrigada por se juntarem a nós nesta conversa. I'm heading over to Mike as we wrap up our extra time in Ndebele. But first, let's check in with YALI alumni Muzumuzi Mkwananzi, who explains more in Ndebele.
Asilandanga ukwenza iholiday lapha sizosebenza sesifundile kusasa lathi kumele sibone ukuthi lapho esivela khona eAfrika yathuthuka kakhulu ngathi into engiyifundileyo kakhulu ukubana silapha singakwanisa ukuthi sibambane sisebenze sonke ndawonye siyathuthuka.
Well, thank you so much, Myra, for that. Zuluganda wonke umuntu ongenayo kuhlelo siyakwamukela kuhlelo lethu lwe-extra time sikhangela uhlelo lwe-Young African Leaders Initiative, abanye know it as a Mandela Washington Fellowship, abanye bathi YALI. Lisibanda ukuzwa amazwi kaVusumuzi Mkwananzi echasisa esithi hayi bona njengabasakhulayo abadabuka kwele Afrika abalandanga ukuzodlala lapha kwele Melika. Kuhlelo silo Terence Mathe laye ongomunye wabasakhulayo oyingxenye yalolu hlelo. Mathe, ngiyakwamukela kuhlelo bafunjazi.
Hayi siyaphila unjani Mike?
Hayi ngiyaphila. Thank you so much for taking time out ukuba nathi kuhlelo bafo. So earlier on besichasisa ngesikhiwa ngohlelo lwe-Mandela Washington Fellowship kodwa sikhuluma nje I just want to delve straight into it. Sikhangela izwekazi lonke ele-Afrika. ubona ngani uhlelo lwe-Young African Leaders Initiative luthuthukisa njani izwekazi ele-Afrika ikakhulukazi nxa sikhangela abantu abasakhulayo nina abosomabhizimusi?
Okay. Uyabona Mike, uma sikhangela amanye amazwe lathi sikhangele elethu ilizwe, kumele lathi sebekwazi ukuthi uma sidinga intuthuko ukuthi ibe khona lapha e-Afrika, kulokunye okuningi ukuthi vele thina kasiqali ngakho. Uma kunjalo kube kuhle ukuthi siye khonale eMelika lathi sifunde ukuthi ilizwe labo ukuthi lithuthuke bona bakwenza njani. Sesithatha leyo mfundo sibuye thina osomabhizimusi abalapha e-Afrika sikwenze njalo khonokho lathi sizayizuza leyo ntuthuko. So i-Washington Mandela Fellowship isinceda ngakhonokho ukuthi thina osomabhizimusi abatsha siyofunda lathi sithathe i-technology imfundo zabo labo sithathe amanye amabhizimusi akhonale siwalethe la, eminye imishina bona abalayo silethe la. Yeah.
Ngesikhathi se-COVID where you guys did i-fellowship yenu whilst in your different countries, ngesikhathi se-COVID sibone ele-Afrika likhala ngendaba le-technology lapha kwele-Melika besibona ukuthi abantu abasakhulayo beqhubekela phambili ngey'fundo, kodwa kwele-Afrika eningi labantu abasakhulayo babekhala abayenelisi ukufunda ngenxa yokuthi indaba le-technology ikhanya ngani iyahlupha. Njengoba nina you get ama-lessons and mentorship kwele-Melika with the technology and infrastructure yele-Melika, uhlelo lolu how exactly does it apply kwele-Afrika?
Uhlelo lolu thina sithe sifunda ababalisi bethu bebekhonale eMelika, kodwa bona labo bakubona ukuthi abantu bavela ezindaweni ezitshiyeneyo. Bona abakwenzayo ukuthi basithumezela labo izimali ukuthi abanye abangelawo amakhompyutha, ama-tablet, lamafoni labo bezuze uncedo ukuthi labo bethenge lokho ukuthi bebekwanisa ukuthi bengena ku-internet, labo befunda labanye beconnecta kwi-internet lababalisi bona ade bekhonale eMelika. So noma thina bese ku-COVID, hayi wonke umuntu sebeli waba lethuba ukuthi efunde.
Sesikhangela umsebenzi wakho as an entrepreneur, khasela uZulu ukuthi i-Southern Incineration Services, what exactly do you guys focus on njengenkampani?
Thina inkampani yethu ihamba ilama-incinerator. Ama-incinerator yimshina, thina siyayakha leyo mshina. Imshina leyi ukusebenza kwayo ukuthi iyathatha izibi ezivela kuzibhedlela lamanye amankampani ukuthi bona uma belungisa lokho abalungisa khona, izibi eziphuma lapho ziyabe zingcolile ukuthi abantu bengahlangana ngalezo zibi bengagula kumbe kulimala. Thina imshina yettu iyathatha lezo zibi then siyazichisa kumbe siyakhipha lokho okulimazayo ukuthi abantu bengahlangana lakho bona kabalimali. So inkampani yethu vele ikhangele khonokho ukuthi izibi ezilimaza abantu zingabe zigcwala yonke indawo.
Ngamafishane Terence ngoba sokusele 1 minute kuphela gqiba lingxoxo ngokuphathela amazwi wakho okugcina utshela uZulu ukuthi inkampani bengayithola ngaphi.
Inkampani yethu ikhona ku-internet, iwebsite yethu ithi www.cisco.co.zw. Inkampani yethu lawo ama-email silawo, eyami email nguterence@cisco.co.zw. Njalo ku-Facebook, ku-Twitter, la ku-Instagram sikhona, lingadinga Cisco ZW liyasithola ke, lingasifakela ama-message, hayi siyawajabula sebili singawazuza ingxoxo iye phambili.
All right, well, thank you so much, Terence Mate. We really appreciate your participation on tonight's panel discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, we have reached an end of tonight's broadcast. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank 2021 YALI alumni, Terence Mate. We also had Federico Silva. Fred is a 2015 YALI alumni. We had Gloria Anderson, 2021 YALI alumni, and Amina Abubakar, another 2021 YALI alumni. Ladies and gentlemen, you were tuned into our special Mandela Washington Fellowship special broadcast. I'm your host, Mike Corbett.
And I am Maida Lasalette. Thank you so much for joining us. Good evening.